What's up, guys? So, on this particular video, we'll be discussing about Spiti Valley in the month of June 2025. And in particular, this topic will be diving into the difference between what you can expect when you're traveling in the first half of June, that is from the 1st to the 15th of June, and in the second half from the 16th to the 30th of June, what is the striking difference? And we're breaking it down into six topics. So, number one is weather and temperature. So, in the first half of June, it's still a lot cooler and summer has not completely set in its transition. So the daytime temperature will range from anywhere between 8 degrees to 18 degrees, while in the second half of June, the daytime temperature will go up by from 12 degrees to around 24 degrees. Now, when it comes to the night temperature, you can expect the night temperature to drop to as low as 0 degrees in the first half, while in the second half, it will hover around 5 to 10 degrees in the night. So, it's much warmer in the second half of June. So, for all those who are not really inclined on traveling when the weather is really cold, the second half of June is a much better time to be going there because by then summer has set in and it's a lot more warmer. So, by default, it's easier for you to adapt to the high altitude and the thin oxygen. For all those who are seeking to go for night skies to get a clear view of the galaxy, it's usually depending on the moon cycle. When it's a no moon night, by default, you'll get to see a million shooting stars and stars in the sky. But this is provided it's a clear sky night. If it's cloudy and there's cloud cover, you're not going to be able to see a lot. Now, second point is about the road condition and accessibility. So it's during the first half of June when the road via Manali opens and shuts because there's still a lot of snow cover and the snow is melting. So because of this, the first half of June is a bit of a risk for you to get in and out of Spiti Valley via the Manali Kunzum road. The Shimla road is open throughout the year, so regardless of when you're traveling in June, you can easily go via Shimla and Kinnaur Valley. The second half of June is the best time to be going via Manali to Kaza or Tabo, depending on where your stop is. Because by the second half of June, the snow has melted considerably, and it's very unlikely that the road will shut again unless there's been a flash flood which can cause the road to shut. Now, if you look up the internet and you do a bit of research for the month of June, it's snowed in places like Langza and in Kibar. I would say any around the 1st to 2nd of June, it was snowing up there. So this will cause the road to shut, like I just mentioned earlier, in the first half of June, and which makes it very risky to travel via Manali in the first half of June because of this particular issue. Because the weather has become very erratic. It can rain and snow anytime, and when it's raining in other parts of Himachal, it's usually snowing in Spiti Valley. So, based on the road condition, if you're looking to do the full circuit, it's always advisable to go in the second half of June to have a seamless and flawless experience. The third point on our list is tourist footfall. The first half of June is when you'll have lower tourist crowds. So, by default, wherever you're staying and wherever you're going, it's not going to be too much of tourist inflow. But in the second half of June, it's going to be jam packed with a lot of tourists coming in because that's when the peak season for Spiti Valley starts. So if you're someone who doesn't want to travel with a lot of tourist crowd and having crowded every nook and corner, then my personal recommendation is that you plan your trip in the first half of June and try to exit latest by the 18th to 20th because by then the road condition is good. So planning your trip anytime by the, I would say, 13th, 14th and winding up before the 20th is a very good time to be going there. That's because the crowd usually starts pouring in from the last week of June. Now, number four is the nature and scenery. So, by default, in the first half of June, you'll get to see a lot of snow capped mountains. And if you're someone who's chasing snow and snowfall, you would definitely experience snow in the first half of June because it just snowed, like I mentioned earlier. In the second half of June, it's going to be hot sunshine, blue skies, and by default, it's going to be very limited snow capped mountains, which you'll only see from distance away from where you are. Snowfall is very unlikely in the second half of June. Now, point number five is network and budgeting. Now, when it comes to the cell phone network, that's good throughout the year. So, regardless of when you're traveling in the first half or the second half of June, you'll have excellent 4G and 5G network by Jio and Airtel. Now, these are the two best network providers that you can travel with. BSNL also has network, but it is Not as good as what you will experience from Geo and Airtel. And remember, postpaid and prepaid both work very well in Himachal, so you do not need to worry about that. Having a combination of both the SIM cards is the best way to travel in Himachal. Now, when it comes to what you should be budgeting, remember that budgeting for Spiti Valley in the first half and second half is completely different. In the first half of June, things will be a lot more affordable, but in the second half, things will start reaching its max pricing. So, a room which will cost you anywhere between, I would say, 2,000 to 3,000 in the first half of June can go up to anywhere between 5 to 6,000 by the second half of June. This kind of a jump is purely because, as mentioned earlier, the tourist season for Spiti Valley starts after the 20th of June, and this is why the prices bump up. If you are looking for a cheap budget trip, then you should be planning your trip in the first half of June. The second half of June is for people who want to get the real experience without compromising on the budget. The sixth and final point is what you should be packing in the first half and the second half, if there's any difference. So when it comes to packing, there's a massive difference in what you should be packing. In the first half of June, you'll definitely need a thermal wear, which is needed to keep you warm. You'll definitely need to get acclimatized very well before you actually start climbing, because altitude sickness is a big problem. And it's in the first half of June that people actually fall sick, because if you're planning on taking the road via Manali to Kaza via Kunzumla, it's going to be an high altitude road, and it's going to be a very tough challenge for people who are not used to altitude. At the same time, if you're taking the same Manali road to Spiti Valley via Kunzum Pass in the second half of June, the snow has melted and it becomes a lot more easier. The reason why the snow makes such a big difference is when you're traveling in the first half and there's a lot of snow, your vehicle is going to move slower, and there's always a possibility of getting stuck at various points along the journey. So, the usual journey, which takes anywhere between 4 to 6 hours, can take anywhere between 9 to 12 hours based on the road condition in the first half of June. So, this is what is the biggest difference when it comes to packing. Pack woolens for your entire trip, depending regardless of when you're going. But if you're going in the first half, make sure that you have strong woolens and you also have a bit of rainwear, because if it rains and snows, it's going to be a very big problem. The second half of June, it's very unlikely to rain in Spiti Valley, but at the same time, just carrying a wind sheeter or a jacket which can work as a wind sheeter will come really, really handy. Do not overpack, because the more you pack, the more you'll have to carry along with you along the journey. The more simpler you pack with the lighter gear, it's much better. Just remember by default to carry your first aid kit with you, so that if you fall sick or anybody in your group falls sick, you can fall back on your medicines which you have carried from home, because not all the places in Spiti Valley have a medical shop. You'll have to go to either Tabo or Kaza to get medicines. Now, remember, carrying with you an oxygen meter is very handy. It comes very handy to understand if anybody's oxygen level and blood pressure is dipping. So if someone has it or can borrow something from a friend, do carry it for a trip to Spiti Valley. It comes really, really handy. Now, if you're looking for a trip to Spiti Valley in the month of June, we have a couple of trips happening which are fixed dated trips. You can join that as a solo traveler, as a couple, or a small group. We take anywhere between 4 to 12 people per trip of ours, and these trips are completely experience based, where you'll be staying in homestays, experiencing the local life of Spiti, and interacting with the locals. Along the way, you'll also be stopping at all the tourist points that are supposed to be there. But unlike most other trips to Spiti Valley, we'll be bypassing Kaza and staying only in the remote villages, so that you can actually soak in and get a first hand experience of what Spiti Valley really, really has to offer. So your entire experience of Spiti Valley becomes something beyond just photos and videos, but something which can go deep into your soul and cause a life changing experience. If you're looking to enroll for a trip, you can directly book via our website, or you can contact our team via the WhatsApp icon on our website. And our sales team will be more than happy to guide you through the booking process. If you're looking for questions or answers to your own personal trip to Spiti Valley in the month of June, then leave a comment in the comment section and we'll be more than happy to help. Do not WhatsApp or call us for your own personal trip queries. Our sales team isn't inclined to answer any of those. Now, getting back, the final pro tip: if you haven't booked your tickets to Spiti Valley and you're worried about rain, you do not need to worry about rain in Spiti Valley in the month of June. Spiti Valley in June is always bone dry. It might snow, but it's very unlikely to rain. Till our next video, stay safe, stay happy, and stay blessed.